Have you been waking up feeling different, but can't explain why? What if that subtle shift in your spirit isn't random, but a divine announcement that your prime has arrived? Chosen one, this message didn't find you by accident. It was dispatched from heaven to confirm what your spirit has already been whispering in silence. You're not just evolving, you're entering your prime. You're not just more focused because you've been trying harder. You're more focused because heaven is funneling power into your purpose. You're not just waking up with more peace and fire for no reason. You're waking up because the divine clock is striking. Now, this is not random. It's revelation. You are being activated, not aged. You're being refined, not reduced. You're being positioned, not passed over. Before we go any further, type 777 in the comments if you've been feeling a shift, subtle or strong in your energy, your mind, or your spirit. That number isn't just a code. It's a heavenly signal that you're being equipped for the next chapter of your divine calling. 777 means heaven is saying go. And to those of you who have been sowing into this movement through your super thanks, I see you, and more importantly, heaven sees you. Your support is sacred. You're not just giving, you're activating this prophetic flow. Thank you deeply for honoring what God is doing here. Now don't scroll, don't rush. What you're about to hear is not motivation. It's divine instruction. This isn't entertainment. It's confirmation. In the next few chapters, we're going to break down exactly why your energy is rising, how to protect it, and what it means when heaven says, this is your prime. Let's go deeper. God's chosen one, your energy is increasing because you're entering your prime. Chapter 1. Your spirit is outpacing your years. There's a mystery pulsing inside you, now one that even you are only beginning to understand. As the world around you slows, as peers your age ease into complacency, you are accelerating. Their voices speak of burnout, of letting go, of compromise. But your inner dialogue has shifted. It's filled with fire precision and a strange sacred stamina that refuses to fade. Something invisible is sustaining you, and it's not adrenaline, it's assignment. You've entered a zone where age no longer defines vitality. In physics, this phenomenon is akin to quantum entanglement. Though your physical years are limited by linear time, your spirit operates in a different realm, one that defies decay and delay. You're not operating on biology. You're operating on prophecy. Your spirit is outpacing your years because your calling has demanded an off-timeline activation. And heaven has responded. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Isaiah 40:30-31. Can you feel it? That divine contradiction inside of you. How can you be so awake while others feel exhausted? Why is your soul gaining clarity when many are growing confused? How are you the one who seemed forgotten, now rising with unprecedented power? The answer, because your timeline was never natural, it was supernatural. You weren't meant to peak in your 20s and fade by 40. You were set apart for a crescendo that begins in silence, matures in isolation, and erupts in the fullness of God's timing. Like Moses, who wasn't called until he was 80, you were hidden for the sake of holy preparation. God was maturing your stamina while others were wasting theirs. For the vision is yet for an appointed time. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. Habakkuk 2:3. Even the muscles in the human body respond to rest and tension by growing stronger. This is called hypertrophy. Spiritually, God allowed tension in your life not to break you, but to build spiritual hypertrophy. Every delay was resistance training. And now you're not just bouncing back, you're breaking through. A man named Elias once spent a decade working in the shadows of a large ministry, never promoted, rarely recognized. But in those silent years, he studied, fasted, listened. When the head pastor stepped down after scandal, Elias was ready. Not because he chased power, but because he had been prepared in private. Within months, that church transformed into a global healing movement. The world called it a surprise, but heaven had been orchestrating it all along. But you be strong and do not let your hands be weak, for your work shall be rewarded. 2 Chronicles 15:7. In contrast, Nolan Stryker, a well-known fitness influencer who built a brand off fame and high performance. But his rise was artificial, fueled by stimulants, unsustainable diets, and ego. When the crash came, it was brutal: mental collapse, lawsuits, a shattered reputation. Because when your energy is manufactured by ambition, it evaporates with applause. But when it's cultivated by obedience, it endures. You've been fueled differently. You're not feeding off people's validation anymore. Your mitochondria, the powerhouse of your cells, are metaphorically being restored by heaven's oil. You are running on divine ATP, now anointed transfer power. The Spirit is your fuel source, and that's why fatigue is fleeing. Not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord of hosts. Zechariah 4:6. You've become like the eagle. Eagles molt, shedding their feathers in silence before soaring again with renewed strength. You too were stripped in silence, not as punishment, but as preparation for atmospheric ascension. You are now built for altitudes where lesser spirits suffocate. You no longer flap to be seen. You soar to fulfill. Sophia, a 47-year-old fashion designer from Bogota, was dismissed by the industry after a quiet decade of no collections. But after a silent retreat in the mountains, her spiritual vision unlocked. Her comeback line, based on spiritual warfare and divine covering, not only sold out globally, but sparked a wave of redemptive fashion among trauma survivors. That's not branding. That's blueprint. The Spirit of God who raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. Romans 8:11. You thought you were aging, but in God's economy you were activating. You assumed you were slowing down, but really your spirit was speeding ahead, refusing to drag your body into places no longer meant for you. That's why your fatigue was never just physical. It was resonance rejection. You couldn't thrive in low-frequency environments anymore. Have you asked yourself why the silence was so long? Why the delay so frustrating? Because God wasn't just maturing your gift. He was protecting your energy. He didn't want you to squander divine oil on relationships that leak or systems that exploit. Your second wind is not coming. It's already here. But it doesn't look like hype. It looks like clarity. It feels like divine stamina. It sounds like peace, and it walks with direction. You're not just recovering energy. You are reclaiming spiritual equity. You are not just outlasting peers. You are outpacing timelines, because you were not designed for burnout. You were designed for breakthrough. He gives power to the weak, And to those who have no might, he increases strength. Isaiah 40:29. The world may never understand how you're doing what you're doing, but that's okay. They don't see the oil. They didn't witness the pressing. They don't know that while others were celebrated, you were consecrated. So don't match their pace. Don't lower your frequency. Don't apologize for your stamina. You are being carried by the same spirit that hovered over chaos and created cosmos. You are not late. You are eternal. And your prime begins now. Chapter 2. You survived the low seasons for this rise. There were nights when your soul felt like it was caving in, not from weakness, but from weight, a sacred weight that pressed you beyond what felt survivable. You sat in silence, tears soaking into unseen places, whispering questions only heaven could hear. Why does it feel like everything is falling apart when I'm doing everything I can to hold it together? But what you didn't realize then, chosen one, is that heaven was not ignoring your cry. It was answering in silence. Because divine preparation often feels like divine abandonment. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. In psychology, there's a term called post-traumatic growth, the phenomenon where the most meaningful transformation arises not in spite of pain, but because of it. That's what was happening to you. You weren't falling behind. You were being planted. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. God let certain dreams die not because He's cruel, but because they were too small for the destiny on your life. He let relationships fall away, not to break your heart, but to rescue your identity. He let you come to the end of yourself, not to shame you, but to shift your dependence from shallow strength to spiritual stamina. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it produces much grain. John 12:24. Have you ever asked why so many things left all at once? Why the doors shut when you were doing everything right? Could it be that God wasn't taking things from you, but pulling you out of things that couldn't handle where you were headed? Take Joelle, a former investment banker from Geneva. For over a decade, she built wealth, respect, and prestige. But one night, a personal betrayal shattered her carefully curated world. Instead of rebuilding the image, she surrendered it. Years later, she now leads a global foundation rescuing women from financial exploitation. Her public fall became a sacred pivot. What once defined her is now just a testimony. That's the kind of rise that silence births. Meanwhile, Vincent Dahl, a tech CEO once hailed as the voice of innovation, ignored every warning sign in pursuit of expansion. His company collapsed from within due to corruption he refused to acknowledge. While Joelle surrendered to be refined, Vincent resisted and was consumed by his own illusions. The difference wasn't opportunity, it was obedience. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that He may lift you up in due time. 1 Peter 5:6. What was breaking you was also building you. You didn't just lose sleep. You lost versions of yourself that were never sustainable. You buried old identities that clung to validation, overextension, and applause. And what bloomed in their place was something eternal, the kind of deep resilience that no camera can capture, the kind of peace that doesn't flinch under pressure. In nature, some seeds require fire to open. That's not trauma, it's design. Similarly, the flames you faced didn't destroy you. They activated your anointing. Elijah once sat under a tree, exhausted, praying to die. But after divine rest and restoration, he outran Ahab's chariot. He didn't just survive, he accelerated. The same Spirit that revived him is reviving you. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall run and not be weary. Isaiah 40:31. When no one was clapping, you kept showing up. When the lights were off, you still prayed. When there was no visible fruit, you still watered the promise. This isn't hype. This is harvest. And the bloom is beginning. Isaac, a fictional carpenter from the hills of Cusco, spent years alone after a brutal betrayal left his name smeared and his workshop abandoned. But in the stillness, he built quietly, one table at a time. No marketing, just obedience. One day, a local leader visited his shop and wept at the beauty of his craftsmanship. That one encounter sparked a wave of commissions that rebuilt Isaac's life and inspired an entire region. Not because he fought for visibility, but because he stayed faithful in the shadows. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Psalm 35. Have you ever felt like your tears were wasted? Like all that pain had no purpose? What if those tears were irrigation for your next season? What if the pain was never meant to bury you, but to birth a version of you strong enough to carry the promise? This rise is different. You're not stepping into success. You're stepping into significance. Your movements are no longer reactive, they're intentional. You're no longer energized by ambition. You're anchored in assignment. From an architectural lens, the deeper the foundation, the higher the structure can rise. And God dug deep in you. He used isolation to fortify your core, silence to cleanse your motives, and delay to refine your discernment. What's being raised now isn't just impressive, it's immovable. After you have suffered a little while, God will restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast. 1 Peter 5:10. So let them wonder how you got back up. Let them speculate about your glow. What they'll never grasp is that you didn't fake your healing. You sat in the furnace. You let it burn away what couldn't stay. And now what remains is oil, power, grace, authority. Not from performance, but from process. Chosen one, you didn't skip the pain. You stewarded it. And now you rise not just alive, but anointed. Chapter 3. The world calls it aging backwards. They've started to notice a chosen one, a shift that's more than just skin deep. There's something about your face, less tension, more light, the kind of glow that no skincare serum can promise. People assume it's your routine, your water intake, your new diet, or maybe some beauty hack they've yet to discover. But the truth, it's not external, it's eternal. What's happening to you isn't a reversal of time, it's the restoration of purpose. The world might call it aging backwards, but heaven knows you're not moving toward youth. You're moving deeper into the fullness of who you were always meant to become. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Psalm 23:3. They didn't see the process. They weren't there for the nights your body ached from emotional weight. They didn't see the dark mornings where you sat in stillness, whispering prayers you weren't sure God still heard. You invited him into the caverns of your soul, where memories lived, where betrayal hid, where grief had set up permanent residence. Most people keep those doors sealed. You opened them, and what happened next wasn't cosmetic, It was surgical, in the spirit, a heavenly reconstruction. Have you ever considered that what's changing on your face is a signal of what's been healed in your history? What if the softness in your gaze is the result of letting go of old judgments? What if the way you walk now isn't just confidence, but consecration? What if the clarity in your expression isn't youth, but deliverance? Those who look to him are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame. Psalm 34:5. Ezra, a trauma nurse from Cape Town, spent years holding strangers' hands as they slipped from life to death. He never cried, not once, but he also never healed. After a nervous breakdown, he withdrew, not to quit, but to let God in. He entered a spiritual sabbatical in the mountains for 9 months. No phones, no noise, just worship journaling and inner excavation. When he returned to the city, people didn't recognize him, not because he looked different, but because he felt different. His very presence became an atmosphere. Carmen Leclerc, by contrast, was one of Europe's most sought-after television hosts. Known for her ageless beauty, she prided herself on her youth-preserving habits. But behind closed doors, she was addicted to approval and injections. Her breakdown happened live, on air. Her public was shocked, but heaven wasn't, because fake peace always collapses under the pressure of sustained exposure. Her face was flawless, but her soul was fracturing. The world applauded her glow until it couldn't hide the rot beneath. He gives beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Isaiah 61:3. Your restoration isn't a rebrand, it's a resurrection. You are not reversing time. You are releasing timelines that no longer belong to you. In physics, we know that entropy is the natural decline into disorder, but restoration in the kingdom defies entropy. When you realign with the source, your body, mind, and spirit begin to regenerate in rhythm. Science calls it cellular repair. The Spirit calls it sanctified renewal. Your youth is renewed like the eagles. Psalm 103:5. Isn't it strange how you breathe deeper now, how your skin glows without trying, how laughter comes easier, and comparison no longer steals your joy? What if this peace is heaven's reward for all those nights you obeyed without understanding? What if this renewed energy is what joy feels like, when it's no longer filtered through fear? Maria, a sculptor from Valencia, used to wake up with heaviness in her chest. Doctors couldn't explain it. She'd built a career in fame, but her spirit was crumbling. She shut down her studio, turned her home into a sanctuary, and began fasting not just food, but noise, distractions, performance. For a full year, she lived in rhythm, with rest. Her hands, once shaking, began to sculpt again. This time, not for fame, but for freedom. And when people saw her, they said, "You look reborn." And she was. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. 2 Corinthians 5:17. What if all this talk of aging backwards is actually code for heavenward alignment? What if you're not chasing youth, but revealing the unburdened version of you that God always saw beneath the trauma? The glow isn't from products, it's from purpose. The brightness isn't artificial. It's a sign you've exited survival and stepped into surrender. This is the glory glow, the one Moses wore after being in the presence of God so long that his skin couldn't hide the encounter. He had no skin serum, no facial mist, just face-to-face communion. You've had your own Sinai, your own holy unveiling, and the world is seeing what only heaven could have cultivated in secret. And now, chosen one, your energy is pure. Your joy is unbothered. You're not competing. You're creating. You're not clinging to youth. You're carrying legacy. You didn't go back in time. You stepped into timelessness. You've become a walking reminder that eternity lives in the ones who choose obedience over applause. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. Psalm 92:14. This isn't just a good season. This is a new species of strength. Your restoration has no expiration date. It's not a result of supplements, facials, or self-help. It's the fruit of sacred surrender. And the longer you stay in flow with heaven, the younger you'll feel, not because time reversed, but because truth replaced what trauma once drained. You are not going backwards. You're going deeper. And that chosen one is what real transformation looks like. Chapter 4. God held back your prime for the right time. They thought your time had passed. They watched you fade into the shadows and assumed it was over. Your silence confused them. Your invisibility offended them. Your lack of urgency made them question your ambition. They whispered that you were wasting your potential, that maybe you peaked too early, that maybe life had broken your momentum beyond repair. But they didn't understand God never allowed you to peak early because He was never interested in temporary applause. He was preserving your prime for divine purpose. What they called delay was divine suspension. What they mistook for silence was sacred calibration. You weren't falling behind. You were being rooted. You weren't being overlooked. You were being overshadowed by the Spirit like Mary before birthing something no one had ever seen. The world operates in decades. Heaven moves in divine sequence. And your life was never designed to follow the rhythm of the world. It was aligned to the architecture of eternity. To everything, there is a season and a time, to every purpose under the heaven. Ecclesiastes 3:1. Have you ever wondered why your gifts seemed dormant while others were being celebrated? Why your strength returned in secret, but your platform remained untouched? Why your dreams stayed alive, even when your doors stayed closed? You weren't being ignored. You were being instructed. God was stretching your patience so it could match your platform. He was deepening your discernment so you wouldn't fall for distractions. He was securing your motives so your legacy wouldn't be built on ego. And now finally, because your spirit has matured beyond performance, heaven is releasing your moment. Maya, a quietly faithful educator from Dakar, spent her 20s working in underfunded schools. No headlines, no accolades. But she prayed over every child's desk before class. She fasted during school holidays. When civil unrest threatened her city, she organized underground teaching for displaced families. Years passed. One day, a foreign nonprofit stumbled upon her work. Within months, her grassroots model became the blueprint for a national education reform. And people asked, where did she come from? She didn't arrive late. She arrived trained. In contrast, Quentin Varelli, a Silicon Valley prodigy, rose to fame for a biotech startup at 26. He sold too soon. Wealth exploded. Integrity evaporated. With no spiritual foundation, he built towers of influence that collapsed under their own weight. Scandal, lawsuits, addiction. His prime was handed to him too early, before his soul had any structure. Because without preparation, prominence becomes poison. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Galatians 6:9. Chosen one, you were hidden for protection, not punishment. And now the soil that once buried you is beginning to shake, not to suffocate you, but to reveal you. You are rising not because of branding, but because of becoming. God didn't let you explode on the scene when your ego was still fragile. He didn't put you in front of kings when your heart still sought validation. He waited until you didn't need the microphone to feel meaningful, until you could carry weight without breaking, until applause felt like confirmation, not medication. Have you noticed your dreams feel heavier now, but more focused? Your energy is increasing, not from ambition, but alignment. Your ideas are flowing, but without anxiety. Your confidence is not loud, but anchored. That's not motivation. That's maturation. Humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. 1 Peter 5:6. Isaac, a fictional stonemason from a village near Naples, lived unnoticed for most of his life. He built tombs, quiet, reverent spaces. For decades, he crafted monuments of honor in silence. One day, a visiting archbishop wept at the sacred precision of Isaac's hands. That encounter led to an invitation to carve the marble altar of a cathedral. Isaac didn't become talented overnight. He had been ready in secret. What was unseen by man was watched by God the whole time. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. Lamentations 3:25. You questioned the timing. You cried when doors stayed shut. You served when no one watched. You wondered if God had passed you by. But what if he was hiding you, like fine wine, knowing that the later the reveal, the richer the reward? There's a concept in science called latent heat energy that builds unseen until it bursts into visible transformation. That's you. You've been building pressure in silence, and now heaven is releasing your stored power not in sparks, but in strategic flame. This isn't about catching up. This is about catching fire at the right temperature. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. Isaiah 40:31. And when people ask what changed, you won't point to a secret strategy or shortcut. You'll say, God waited until I could handle it. He waited until the applause wouldn't distract you, until promotion wouldn't tempt you, until access wouldn't corrupt you. Now, your steps are ordered not by hustle, but by heavenly rhythm. This is why your voice is louder without yelling, why your presence carries weight without explanation, why doors are opening now not to save you, but to serve you. Because now you're ready to carry the glory, not just the gifts. This is your prime. But it's not late. It's exact. It's not overdue. It's ordained. And you can walk into it without fear, because the same God who delayed your rise has guaranteed your rooting. No blessing will break you now. No elevation will erase your humility. No spotlight will steal your soul, being confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will complete it. Philippians 1:6. So walk tall, speak with clarity, move without apology. The oil you carry was preserved. The doors you're entering were always yours. The prime you're stepping into was not missed. It was marinated. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Let them ask where you came from. Smile and say, I was being held back, not because I was forgotten, but because I was being fortified. And now you rise not just strong, but steady, not just present, but anointed, not just gifted, but governed by grace. This is not revival. This is release. And it's right on time. And don't be surprised if your prime doesn't look like everyone else's. Because while the world defines prime as your youngest, loudest, most visible stage, heaven defines it as your most obedient, most rooted, and most refined season. Your prime isn't about numbers. It's about nurture. It's about how deeply your soul was shaped in silence, how wholly your motives were purified in obscurity, and how powerfully your discernment was sharpened through the fires no one saw. This is not the energy of someone trying to prove something. This is the stillness of someone who has nothing to hide. This is what happens when character catches up to capacity, when your identity is no longer attached to platforms, outcomes, or applause, but grounded in presence, purpose, and peace. When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. Isaiah 60:22. Have you felt the shift, that what used to tempt you no longer even moves you, that invitations you once would have chased now feel like distractions, that what felt like delay was really disentanglement from what would have diluted you? That's because God didn't just remove obstacles. He also removed options. He refined your appetite. He detoxed your desires. He stripped away what looked shiny but lacked substance, so that when He finally handed you your moment, you wouldn't trade it for anything lesser. You've become spiritually aerodynamic. There's no drag in your soul anymore, no extra weight, no codependency. You move with speed now, not because you're in a rush, but because you're finally in alignment. Let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with endurance the race marked out for us. Hebrews 12:1. The people who thought you were behind will soon realize you were just on another axis, because your elevation didn't follow earthly logic. Your momentum was not fueled by marketing, but by divine momentum, the kind that builds underground until it erupts with unstoppable force. Like a geyser that has been quietly accumulating pressure under stone, your season is now breaking forth, not in chaos, but in consecrated clarity. And you'll notice this time, you're not afraid. You're not afraid of who walks away, because you know what God preserves is always enough. You're not afraid of starting from scratch, because you've seen what God can do in the dark. You're not even afraid of the spotlight, because you know it doesn't validate you. It simply reveals what's already been built. You walk into rooms now knowing you belong, not because of who's in them, but because of who sent you. And when you speak, your words will carry weight, not because you're louder, but because they are anchored in oil extracted from seasons of crushing silence and surrender. Oil not for display, but for destiny. Your anointing is not new, it's simply now visible. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Psalm 23:5. So remember this, you were never late. You were being reserved. You were never denied. You were being refined. You weren't slow. You were being strengthened for something that no shortcut could sustain. And now, chosen one, you're not just rising, you're reigning. Quietly, consistently, powerfully. Not because you forced the door open, but because the door was waiting for you to become the one worthy to walk through it. This is not just your moment. This is your mandated manifestation. The world will call it comeback, but heaven knows it's the continuation of a covenant. Chapter 5. You're stronger because you're wiser. You're not just stronger because you've trained harder. You're stronger because you've become wiser in how you train, how you rest, and how you protect your energy. This is no longer the season of reckless effort. It's the season of ruthless alignment. Your power is not in the noise you make, but in the boundaries you build. You've learned to differentiate between urgent and important, between emotional bait and spiritual battle. Your strength no longer leaks through arguments or distractions. It is contained, focused, and consecrated. Wisdom is better than strength. Ecclesiastes 9:16. The wisdom you're walking in now didn't come from textbooks. It came from betrayal that forced you to listen to your discernment. It came from burnout that taught you rest is not laziness, it is loyalty to longevity. It came from silence, from waiting, from learning who was really for you when you had nothing left to offer. You once poured from an empty cup, thinking that was noble. But now you understand. An empty cup is a warning sign, not a badge of honor. Have you asked yourself why your energy seems to last longer now? Why you don't need the constant applause to feel affirmed? Why you can walk away from people who misunderstand you and still feel peaceful? That's wisdom. It taught you that not every invitation is a divine assignment, that your name being called doesn't mean your spirit should answer, that rest isn't falling behind, it's divine protection from burnout disguised as opportunity. The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty. Proverbs 22:3. Leona, a former activist from Detroit, used to say yes to every protest, every event, every interview. But after years of fighting publicly and suffering privately, she crashed. In that collapse, God rebuilt her from the inside out. She returned not as a voice of resistance, but a vessel of wisdom. Now she teaches activists how to protect their peace while fighting for justice. Her strength is quieter, but it's unshakable. Meanwhile, Darren Menz, a viral social media coach, built an empire on performance. Every day was hustle, no sleep, no silence, no boundaries. He collapsed on stage mid-sentence live stream to millions. His brand never recovered, because without wisdom, hype will eventually crush what hustle cannot carry. Wisdom is supreme, therefore. Get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding. Proverbs 4:7. You chosen one are no longer moved by surface-level urgency. You've stopped rushing to rescue people who refuse to grow. You've stopped entering rooms where peace has no place. You've stopped shrinking to keep others comfortable. Why? Because wisdom taught you that your energy is holy and not everyone is entitled to access it. Have you noticed how your spirit no longer reacts to everything that pokes at it? That's because you've graduated from reactivity to revelation. You don't just speak truth. You discern when it needs to be spoken. You don't just move with purpose. You move with timing. Even a fool is thought wise if he keeps silent, and discerning if he holds his tongue. Proverbs 17:28. Elias, a fictional winemaker from Mendoza, once rushed every harvest pushing grapes before their time to meet demand. His wine was popular but lacked depth. After a near-death illness, he surrendered to a slower rhythm. He studied weather patterns. He prayed over the vines. He let the fruit dictate the season, not the market. And now his new bottles are aged longer, rarer, and sought after globally. He didn't become stronger by doing more. He became wiser, and that wisdom turned into endurance. You're walking in that kind of spiritual maturity now. You don't run to be seen. You move to be effective. You don't fear being misunderstood. You fear being misaligned. You don't chase open doors. You discern which ones God actually wants you to enter. Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise but as wise, making the most of every opportunity. Ephesians 5:15-16. Have you realized that true strength is not in what you hold up, but in what you choose to let go of? You've released the need to fix everyone. You've surrendered the urge to defend your name. You've walked away from fake urgency, emotional noise, and relationships that feed off your compromise. Now you move lighter. You rise higher. You rest without guilt. You speak when heaven nudges, not when pressure shouts. Your yes is rare, but when you give it, it shifts atmospheres. This is not just strength, it's strategic resilience. And that is why you're glowing in silence. That is why people feel your presence before you speak. You're no longer fighting to be seen. You're walking in a confidence that is confirmed by heaven. The wise store up knowledge, but the mouth of a fool invites ruin. Proverbs 10:14. Chosen one. This wisdom didn't come cheap. It came through seasons where you loved too long, trusted too quickly, forgave too soon. But now your love is deeper. Your trust is guarded, and your forgiveness is not permission, it's preservation. You are no longer leaking power through immaturity. You are preserving it for impact. And because of that, your strength isn't spiky, it's sustained. Your clarity isn't loud, it's lethal. You are now a force, not just a feeling. So when they ask how you do it all with such peace, tell them the truth. I'm not just stronger, I'm wiser. And wisdom is what makes strength sustainable. And here's the mystery that confuses those who once underestimated you. You're stronger now, even though you're doing less. You're louder in spirit, even though you speak less. You become a paradox to a world obsessed with performing. Because your power no longer needs to announce itself. It carries a frequency that shifts things in silence. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength. Isaiah 30:15. You used to measure strength by how much you could carry for others. Now you understand true strength is found in what you refuse to carry if it compromises your assignment. You're not intimidated by closed doors anymore because you've learned some doors are traps in disguise. You don't beg for entry where your spirit feels resistance. Wisdom has taught you to stop interpreting delay as denial, to stop mistaking busy as fruitful, to stop confusing urgency with divine prompting. Have you noticed how your silence has become more disruptive than your speech used to be? You don't need a stage to feel significant. You don't need agreement to walk in truth. You don't need followers to validate your voice. Because you are no longer building from insecurity, you are building from internal instruction, from a well that doesn't run dry, from oil pressed in silence. And when others question why you're not chasing the same things anymore, just smile. Let them assume, let them speculate. You owe no explanations, because what you carry now is encrypted by heaven, discernible only to those who are also walking in spirit and truth. Do not cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet. Matthew 7:6. Chosen one. The wisdom you now walk in is dangerous to systems that thrive on distraction, to people who feed off chaos, to environments built on manipulation. Your very presence reveals what's misaligned. That's why some people withdrew from you once you stopped explaining yourself. Your wisdom triggered their exposure. There's a reason lions don't roar every hour they don't need to. Their presence alone maintains order. That's the kind of strength you've stepped into. A sovereign stillness that commands without control. A regal discernment that no longer needs to argue because you've realized your peace is your platform. And when you rest now, it's not escapism, it's strategy. It's honoring the rhythm of heaven, not the pressure of hustle culture. Because you've tasted burnout, and it taught you to never again betray your soul for temporary progress. Have you realized that your restraint is now louder than your old reactions ever were? You've become dangerous, not because you strive harder, but because you know when to disengage. You've become weighty, not because of followers, but because of substance. You've become magnetic, not because of charm, but because of clarity. You've stepped into a power that hustle could never fabricate, hype could never sustain, and applause could never purchase, because it was formed in secret, forged in silence, and finished by fire. For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. Proverbs 2:6. Now your wisdom not only protects your energy, it multiplies your impact, because what you say now is soaked in oil. What you touch now is filtered through discernment. Where you walk now is guarded by grace. And that is why you are not just stronger, you are spiritually unshakable. This is the strength of the seasoned, the strength of the surrendered, the strength of the strategic soul. And this strength, chosen one, is not going anywhere because it's built on rock, not sand. Chapter 6. Your energy is proof of what's coming. Chosen one. There's something happening inside of you that's louder than words, stronger than logic, and more accurate than any calendar. You've been feeling it, an inner charge, a quickening, a divine voltage running through your system like lightning in your bones. You're waking up with clearer vision, steadier breath, and sharper discernment. And no, it's not adrenaline. It's alignment. You're not just feeling better. You're entering a frequency of readiness that only heaven could initiate. It's not hype, and it's not coincidence. It's prophetic evidence. Why do you feel more alive after a season of drought? Why is your mind clearer, even though nothing has changed externally? Why is your body suddenly syncing with a rhythm of purpose you never planned? Because God is energizing you before he exposes you. Heaven never releases power without a reason. And the strength you're sensing right now is not a reward for the past, it's an alert for the future. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. Isaiah 40:31. This is what divine energy feels like. Not noisy, but potent. Not scattered, but focused. Not forced, but fluid. You're not being asked to hustle. You're being prepared to host something holy. And that requires a different kind of stamina. Have you noticed how you no longer need caffeine to fake joy? How your soul feels lighter even without applause? That's not normal recovery. That's divine regeneration. What you're feeling is a prelude to purpose. You're not just gaining energy to survive. You're gaining energy to steward. There's an assignment coming that will demand the fullness of your capacity, and God, in His mercy, is filling your tank before the journey unfolds. He's upgrading your spiritual metabolism. He's healing your nervous system so it can host peace under pressure. He's elevating your mental bandwidth so you can hold revelation without collapsing. You've prayed for breakthrough, but didn't know the weight that would come with it. You've asked for increase, but weren't aware of the stamina that promotion requires. So instead of rushing you into visibility, God rewired your energy systems to handle what your calling would demand. That's what's happening now. This is the divine download, body, mind, and spirit sinking into purpose. For it is God who works in you to will and to act in order to fulfill His good purpose. Philippians 2:13. So ask yourself, what am I being fortified for? What is God preparing me to carry that I haven't even seen yet? Because when heaven strengthens your body, it's always connected to something weighty in your spirit. You're not just healing, you're being commissioned. Ava, a woman who spent years feeling drained, depressed, and directionless. Doctors couldn't explain her chronic fatigue. Friends thought she was just burnt out. But she knew something spiritual was off. She began fasting, journaling, praying, not for energy, but for alignment. One morning, after months of silence, she woke up before sunrise with a clear word: it's time. From that moment, her energy surged. She began writing, creating, building what would later become a mentorship platform that changed hundreds of lives. That burst wasn't emotional, it was prophetic ignition. In contrast, Felix, a powerful but impatient leader who forced his rise before his roots were deep. His energy was fueled by performance, not purpose. When opposition hit, his strength buckled under the weight of unprocessed trauma. His downfall wasn't lack of talent, it was premature exposure. He didn't wait for divine energy. He ran on ego and it ran out. This is why your season of hidden strength matters. You're being built to last, not flash. This isn't momentary hype, it's sustainable fire. Like a volcanic core under pressure, you've been forming power where no one could see. And now the ground is shaking. The tremors of destiny are near. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season you will reap a harvest. Galatians 6:9. The eagle doesn't flap to rise, it locks its wings into wind it can't see. The bamboo plant grows underground for years before ever sprouting above soil. The lion conserves its energy not because it's lazy, but because its roar is strategic. You're in good company. This inner renewal isn't a warm-up, it's a countdown. Have you asked yourself why your peace feels firmer, even in chaos? Why the exhaustion that once tethered you feels like it's breaking off? It's because divine timing is catching up with your inner healing. God is not trying to impress you. He's aligning you. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Isaiah 40:29, you will be made rich in every way so that you can be generous on every occasion. 2 Corinthians 9:11. And now it's time to stop doubting your stamina. Stop questioning the surge. This energy is not emotional, it's electrical. You are being spiritually wired to endure success without losing your soul, to carry influence without collapse, to walk in answered prayers without reverting to old patterns. This is the electricity of purpose, turning the lights back on in your destiny. You'll notice people saying, "You look different," and they'll be right. Your skin glows because stress no longer clings to your nervous system. Your steps feel lighter because anxiety has lost its grip. Your voice carries weight because you no longer speak from survival, but from assignment. Even in the public eye, we've seen this shift. Take Viola Davis, for example. Once boxed in by others' expectations, she reached a point where the roles she accepted, the words she spoke, and the battles she chose began to reflect a deeper clarity. Her strength became more radiant, not because she gained more fame, but because she gained more truth. And truth is energizing. She stopped performing for acceptance and started standing in authority, and the world could feel it. That's not performance. That's prophetic alignment. You are not just in a new chapter. You're on the edge of divine convergence. Everything is meeting. Now your strength, your clarity, your preparation, your peace. And God is not just giving you energy to carry it. He's giving you authority to protect it. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Psalm 23:5. So don't slow down to match those who've lost their fire. Don't apologize for running with focus when others are stuck in distraction. You are being energized for destiny. Walk like it. Breathe like it. Move like it. Your energy is not hype. It's heaven. Your strength is not chance. It's confirmation. And what's coming next? It will require every drop. So stay in flow. Stay in faith. Because this isn't just restoration, this is launch. And maybe, just maybe, the reason this surge of energy feels so unfamiliar is because you've never felt this free. You're not used to operating without fear, without guilt, without the need to perform, but this is your new frequency now. You've left behind the low vibrations of striving over explaining and needing external permission. Now, you're vibrating at the level of vision clarity and divine certainty. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. Isaiah 40:31. Can you feel how light your soul is becoming? That's not a fluke. That's the weight of delay finally lifting off your shoulders. That's God rewriting the rhythm of your nervous system to match the flow of your new assignment. What used to feel like burnout now feels like breakthrough. What used to drain you now fuels you. And the world will try to explain it away. They'll call it a second wind, a comeback, or a lucky streak. But you'll know better because you remember the years when you had no wind, when your prayers echoed back in silence, when even your breath felt borrowed. So this strength, this fuel, it didn't come cheap, and you won't waste it. The cautionary path of Kanye West, a man of immense creative energy, anointing and influence, yet whose unguarded emotional cycles and lack of consistent alignment left him vulnerable to collapse under his own brilliance. Energy without discernment is combustible. Fire without foundation becomes destruction. What good is divine fire if it's left to burn without direction? But now, chosen one, you are learning what he never mastered, how to hold power with peace. A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. Proverbs 25:28. That's why your peace is prophetic. It's not passive, it's power under governance. It's energy that no longer needs chaos to prove its force. Are you ready to protect what you prayed for? Because this next elevation won't be about acceleration. It'll be about stewardship. Can you move fast while remaining rooted? Can you carry influence without leaking integrity? The truth is, you are no longer just waking up with energy. You're waking up with evidence. Evidence that your past wilderness was not a waste. Evidence that your waiting season was weight training, evidence that your obedience was not unseen. Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Galatians 6:9. And the harvest, it won't just be material, it'll be magnetic. People will feel drawn to your presence and won't know why, but you'll know. Your spirit is announcing what your words haven't yet spoken. It's here. It's time. It's real. This is not just the return of your strength. It's the arrival of your era. So protect your glow, guard your energy, steward your clarity, because what's coming will not be delayed again. You're not running on motivation. You're moving on mantled momentum. And now the universe responds not to your hustle, but to your harmony. Not to your performance, but to your presence. Not to your noise, but to your knowing. You are the evidence of divine timing made flesh, and your energy is the announcement. Chapter 7. This isn't a second wind, it's a supernatural one. Chosen one, let's be clear. What's rising inside you right now is not ordinary momentum. This isn't emotional hype. It's supernatural wind authorized and activated by heaven. You're not catching your breath, you're catching your assignment. This isn't a comeback. This is a divine commissioning. You're not returning to the old version of yourself. You're unveiling the matured, mantled, and multiplied version that's been shaped in silence. This isn't recovery. This is reintroduction by revelation. People think you're regaining what you lost, but truthfully, you're receiving what's always been stored in God's timing, stored in the sacred vault of your calling. What if the reason you feel stronger now is because you finally stopped fighting for man's validation and started flowing in God's authorization? What if the delays were never setbacks, but sacred seals only to be broken when heaven said, now Isaiah 40:31 says, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. You're not running on fumes, you're flying on favor. This wind you're feeling, it's not borrowed. It's not the result of caffeine or compliments. It's the ruach of God. His breath filling your lungs, reviving your vision, strengthening your walk. This is why the tiredness broke suddenly, why the fog lifted, why you now feel sharper, bolder, clearer. You've entered divine synchronization, a season where heaven's rhythm now matches your readiness. Do you realize that the storm wasn't sent to stop you, but to strip you, to burn away every identity you built out of performance and refine the one built on purpose? You may not recognize yourself some days, and that's the point. You're not who you were when the warfare began. That old version of you was built for survival. This one is built for leadership. That old you begged for clarity. This one commands it. You no longer confuse energy with urgency. You don't confuse movement with momentum. You've grown in the silence. What part of you had to die in secret so the truest you could rise in strength? You now understand that true power is not in noise, it's in knowing. You walk differently now, not from arrogance, but from awareness, because you've seen how low God had to take you in order to bring you back up with roots. He didn't raise you quickly, he raised you deeply. 2 Corinthians 4:16 declares, though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. And now you're not rushing forward, you're gliding in divine flow. Like a hawk on the wind, you no longer flap, you soar, you no longer strive. You glide with insight, I tell you a story. A man named Elias once trained for years to be a public speaker. He spent thousands on training books and branding, but every door seemed closed. In his 30s, disillusioned and quiet, he took a job teaching in a small town, believing he had missed his calling. What he didn't know was that one of his shy students would go on to create a global peace movement and credit Elias's weekly wisdom talks as the spark that ignited it. The platform God prepared for Elias was never a stage. It was a soul. Could it be that your greatest influence won't look like what you expected, but it will be exactly what heaven assigned? You've entered a realm where your strength is no longer tied to adrenaline. It's tied to alignment. That's why your energy lasts longer. That's why you can rest deeply and rise stronger. This is not motivation, it's mantling. This isn't hype, it's Holy Spirit calibration. Romans 8:11 says, "If the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you, he will also give life to your mortal bodies." So if you've been feeling like something unexplainable is rising, you're right. You're not imagining it. You're being fortified, strengthened for greater stewardship, not just to speak louder, but to sustain longer, not just to shine, but to carry fire without burning out. Have you mistaken your spiritual wind for just another mood swing? No, this is sacred. This is heaven saying, you are ready. And now, because you've been refined in secret, heaven can trust you in public. Bamboo stays hidden for years, building an unseen root system. But when it breaks ground, it grows feet every day. That's you. The hidden years weren't wasted. They were root years. And now that you're rising, nothing shallow can shake you. The desert flower, which blooms only after years of drought, knows when the time is right. It opens not by pressure, but by prophetic rain. You're not rising for applause, you're rising for assignment. Psalm 92:12 says, "The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree and grow like a cedar in Lebanon." Even your silence carries weight. Even your presence shifts rooms, not because of who sees you, but because of what you carry. And let's not ignore the antagonists. Those who laughed when you retreated will now witness your rise. Some will call it luck. Others will call it timing. But you'll know it was sovereign orchestration. Just like Joseph's brothers bowed not to the brother they threw away, but to the mantle he carried in Egypt, so too your rise will humble the very voices that doubted your worth. Genesis 50:20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done. Are you prepared to carry what you once only prayed for? This is not a redo. This is not a rerun. This is a revelation unfolding in real time. Beyoncé once disappeared for over a year from the public eye, not in scandal but in sacred silence. When she returned, it wasn't for fame, it was with formation, clarity, command. She didn't just return with music, she returned with message and mantle. And that's you, chosen one. Philippians 1:6. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. You've crossed the invisible line, not just into destiny, but into deployment. Now walk like it. You are not desperate. You are designated. You are not late. You are right on Kairos time. You are not begging for energy. You are overflowing with heaven's fire. This is your supernatural wind, and it's not emotional. It's eternal. So let them wonder. Let them question. Let them analyze. But don't slow down to explain. Don't dilute to comfort. Don't pause for applause. Just keep moving, Because this isn't a second wind, this is a spirit-led launch into the version of you that was never built by man, but always designed by God. And this is only the beginning. And if you're wondering why this power didn't come earlier, it's because it couldn't. Not when you still needed people to clap before you committed. Not when your identity was still negotiable. Not when you were more concerned with being visible than being viable. But now God knows He can trust you not to sell what He gave you. He knows you'll steward the wind not wasted on war that's beneath your assignment. Matthew 25:21. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. The supernatural wind isn't just for movement, it's for management. You're not just here to launch. You're here to lead, to build, to maintain what others lose after the hype fades. This is mantle management, not just miracle momentum. You're being given grace, but that grace comes with guardrails. Will you protect this wind? Will you maintain the spiritual hygiene to sustain it? This next level will not reward charisma. It will reveal consecration, because when God launches you, He doesn't just look at your gift, He inspects your governance. Can you still pray when the room is filled with applause? Can you still retreat when the world keeps knocking? Can you fast when opportunity tries to bribe you with shortcuts? You're not being launched just to be seen. You're being launched to shift. There's a reason God waited. There's a reason the spotlight skipped you before. The version of you that needed attention would have self-destructed. The version of you that confused applause with approval would have compromised. But now you carry weight, not just words. Now you understand the gravity of the gift. You move slower, speak clearer, discern quicker. Because now you know not every door is divine and not every stage is sacred. Even Jesus, the Son of God, waited 30 years for a 3-year ministry. Why? Because power misused is still disobedience. John 7:6. My time is not yet here. For you, any time will do. The world is rushing, performing, burning out. But you're gliding in wind, not generated by effort, but entrusted by heaven. This is why your confidence no longer screams, it settles. Why your authority no longer pleads, it permeates. Why your anointing no longer performs, it just is. And because of that, you will now notice the rooms you used to chase will start chasing you. Not because you're popular, but because you're prepared. Not because you're trendy, but because you're timeless. You're no longer the seeker, you've become the signal. People will feel peace when you enter. Environments will shift with your presence. Warfare will increase around you, but so will the heavenly backing that silences it. So here's the truth. This supernatural wind isn't just for you. It's a signpost for generations behind you. You are blazing a trail in the Spirit, and that's why you feel the weight in your bones. You're not just rising as a name, you're rising as a frequency, a signal to the remnant, a trumpet to the slumbering, a living witness that divine timing still rules. Psalm 104:4. He makes the winds His messengers, flames of fire His servants. You are that wind now. You are that flame. And your movement is not hype, it's holy. So protect this wind. Nurture it. Don't explain it. Don't manage it for public approval. Let it blow through every room God sends you into. Let it uproot what is false. Let it replant what is righteous. And when people ask how you're doing it, point up, because the truth is, this isn't a second wind. It's a supernatural one. And it's just beginning. Chosen one, the surge in your energy isn't just a physical recovery, it's a spiritual sign. God is aligning your inner strength with your divine timing. The renewed clarity, the unexpected peace, the fire in your belly that won't go out. These are confirmations from heaven that you're not late, you're right on time, you're not just entering a better season. You're stepping into the prime of your anointing. This isn't self-improvement, it's divine activation. Everything you've endured, the delays, the denials, the dry seasons has built the capacity for this very moment. What once drained you no longer has access to you. Your energy is increasing because your assignment is increasing. The weight you now carry is not a burden, it's a mantle. And you're finally strong enough, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, to carry what heaven has placed on your life. You're not becoming someone new. You're remembering who you've always been in God. The world tried to distract you, discourage you, and detour you, but what God planted in you never died. It was simply maturing beneath the surface. This moment is not about striving, it's about stepping in. Your prime is not a destination, it's a posture of readiness, authority, and holy alignment. Let today be the moment you declare it, I receive my prime, and I rise in it. That simple statement isn't just words, it's agreement. Agreement with timing, with identity, and with the heavenly rhythm that's been quietly preparing you for years. If this message confirmed something stirring in your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Someone you know is also feeling this internal shift and needs to know it's not anxiety, it's acceleration. If this word spoke to your spirit, I invite you to visit my YouTube channel, where you'll find more divine insight, prophetic encouragement, and powerful truth to help you walk in purpose. Every video is crafted to fuel your faith and ground your momentum in wisdom. There is so much more God is revealing, and I'd be honored to walk that journey with you. This space was created for chosen ones like you, who are ready to live with clarity, strength, and holy focus. If this message resonated with you deeply, I encourage you to take a moment to support the channel in a simple yet powerful way. Click the like button, not just to boost the video, but to affirm that this word touched your soul. Share it with someone who might be stepping into their own divine season and needs confirmation. Comment below with a declaration like, I'm in my prime, God ordained it, and let your voice echo what your spirit knows. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any word released for your next level, because heaven speaks in sequence and your next instruction may already be waiting. To every soul who has supported this channel, whether through super thanks, messages of encouragement, prayer, or quiet watching in the background, I want to say thank you. You matter. Your presence here is no small thing. You are not just a number or a view. You are a vessel, and heaven honors your hunger for truth. Whether you give or simply receive, your faithfulness is part of this movement. Until next time, stay rooted in the Word, anchored in purpose, and fueled by holy energy. You are not just surviving, you are surging. You are not in decline. You are entering your divine rise, and you are not behind. You are perfectly aligned with heaven's plan. Your energy is the evidence that your time is now, and your life is about to make sense in ways you couldn't imagine. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May He pour strength into every place that once felt weak. May your prime be protected, fruitful, and filled with undeniable favor. May everything that was delayed be released with interest, And may your life become the testimony that proves God always knew what He was doing with you. I'll see you in the next video.